Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today to talk about some essentials in project management through Function Point. It's about 1 minute, top of the hour, and I still see some people trickling in. So we're just going to give a minute and a half warning here, and we'll see you all soon. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We are now a minute past, so let's get started. Hi. Okay. So, February 17th, and what we are talking about today is essentials for project management. Anyone that joined us a couple of weeks ago for our webinar knows that we talked about schedules and tasks and how to really set up the basics of the system. And now what our goal is to talk about today is all around sort of that next step. How do you really utilize those schedules and those tasks to help you as a PM team to manage where everyone is at and all those different staff members, especially with what is happening in the world right now, and making sure that as we're working from home, we're able to stay on top of our staff. So my name is Sophia Wilson. I'm sure anyone that has listened to a webinar before has heard my voice before. So thank you again for joining us. Today I am joined by Jess Bird, who's a Senior Customer Success Manager, and I've worked with her for many years. Jess, just checking in, can you hear me?
I can. Sorry, I couldn't find my mute button.
Great, awesome. It's always a pleasure having you on here. Now, anyone that was on our webinar a couple of weeks ago, we did have some technical difficulties with the questions. We know that some people were asking them, but for some reason, Jess wasn't able to see them. If anyone can just shoot a quick hey, hello, Jess, into your question box, that would be fantastic so that we can make sure that that is working correctly. Otherwise, we'll need to have some behind the scenes happening as we go through today. Again, on that note, anyone that has any questions as we are going through, you will see a questions box on your GoToWebinar control panel. So please shoot them in there as we go through. We want to hear your questions. Anything that Jess thinks is really good for me to tackle on screen as we go through everything today, she'll pipe up and interrupt me. I'll check in with her. Also, if there's anything that maybe is more specific to you and your workflow, don't worry. We'll have either one of us or another member of our success team reach out to you to talk about those, so that we can get you up and running best for you and your team. So don't worry if we aren't able to answer your questions directly today. We will make sure to reach out to you as well.
Good news, the questions are able to be seen. So thank you everybody for doing that test for me.
Great. Awesome, great, glad to hear it. That was very stressful last time, so I'm glad we're on the right page today. So let's go into our agenda. So we're going to keep it pretty high level today, guys. My expectation for anyone joining us on this webinar today is you know how to create schedules and tasks within Function Point. So we're talking about that next step now. We're going to be talking about your resource planning. We're going to be talking about the Kanban board. And then we're also going to talk about just a few new add-ins that we've done over the last year. One of them, some of you may be aware of already, actually, because it has been around for a little bit, but not everyone knows about it. So I just want to keep talking about it. And then something something else that was actually just released in the last couple of weeks, and we haven't really done an official launch on it yet. So you will be some of the first people to know about it. So we're very excited. As we jump in, we're going to talk about some resource planning. So we actually have a couple of cool things within Function Point that really help with this. First of all, being our work planning view. So again, anyone that is kind of already active within Function Point, you've probably seen it. This is going to be really great for planning your forecasting. This screen is editable. We can do a lot of filtering. So it really is a great visual to help you actually plan out your staff's activities and bandwidth throughout the year. Again, don't worry, we're going to jump into the system and you're going to be able to see everything as well. Something else that is kind of new is we do have some new resource reporting that have been built out in our BI reporting for you. So a pretty commonly asked question is really around some of our efficiency reporting. And although a lot of agencies that work with us, they really enjoy using our efficiency reporting, it's all based off of billable and non-billable time, and it's more dollar amounts that are analyzed. So what a very commonly asked question was what I want to be able to see is actually analyze capacity and forecasting based off of tasked hours and remaining hours that have been tasked out, and how do we compare those different numbers and be able to analyze it. So we actually have built some of those reports. I'm going to show you where they are and give you a small example of that today so that you can see how we can easily pull that and how it's organized. So again, really great couple of resources there for you. Next up, we're going to go into the Kanban board. Now, I know we have really talked about this a lot over the last year. This was a really big launch that we did at the end of last year in 2020. We have been seeing that it has really had great use, but really what our goals with Kanban, of course, was, being able to collaborate on tasks efficiently in one screen. This was a huge request from a lot of designers, web developers, people that wanted easy ways of being able to organize their tasks in a single view. And again, we're really concentrating on making sure that work from home is as easy as possible right now. We all have enough stresses going on with life and the pandemic, and so we want to make sure that at least organizing your tasks with work are as easy as possible. So again, I'm still obsessed with this new view, and we'll just do another overview of that today, and can't wait for any questions that are maybe burning through people's minds on the Kanban board. And then a couple of new add-ins. So again, bulk editing. Anyone that has joined us on a webinar over the last year, I have mentioned it. It is a really handy feature. Again, if you have a ton of overdue tasks, or I'm actually going to take you through a specific workflow today around more managers taking a look at all tasks that have been completed and utilizing a new status that I don't see commonly used, which is our confirmed. So again, I'm going to walk you through it, but it is actually a pretty handy workflow for you, where if you want to review all of the tasks that have been completed within a specific time frame, and then you can confirm them following that, knowing that, again, you've done a review of those tasks, making sure things are all working well, and being able to mark those off easily and quickly for yourself, rather than needing to go into each task individually. And then, of course, we have our pin tasks, which is new. This we've only just released in the last couple of weeks. So in a lot of cases where maybe there are tasks that you don't necessarily need to assign to somebody, but they may need an update or information regarding that task, you now have the ability to pin a task directly to somebody's dashboard that needs that sort of information, very similar to the pin notes. So anyone that has used our pin notes features, you can now do that with tasks, which has been really handy. I think a lot of agencies that have maybe used other tools, it's very similar, or the same sort of goal around adding, and which is also something we do hope to have in the future. But this is getting us started in the right direction of having that sort of in there as well. So like I was saying before, questions as they come in, please put them into the question box in your GoToWebinar control panel. Jess will be answering those questions as we go through, but I do always like to make it known if there are any additional questions you know, tonight you wake up and realize, oh shoot, that would have been really great to ask. Never hesitate to reach out to our success team at success@functionpoint.com. You'll have access to the entire team who are always there to answer any questions that you maybe have. Again, we'll make sure that we can help you if they're general how-tos and how we can help you with that, or if you need help with more specific workflows or understanding to make your use of Function Point easier. So we're definitely here to be resources for you. And yeah, that's how you can reach out to us. Now, before I jump directly into the system, Jess, I just want to check in. Any questions, concerns, anything else that you would like to add before we do?
Nope, we're good so far, but that sounds like a really eventful webinar.
There's a lot of content. Hopefully we can get through it in the next 50 minutes. So everyone bear with me and let's dive in. So again, as everyone gets into Function Point, my expectation in this webinar today is people do know how to create schedules and tasks. If you don't, we do have a great webinar that we hosted 2 weeks ago on that topic. So always happy to share that with anyone that may need it. But now we're talking about that next stage. We're creating those schedules, those tasks, and we are now ready to actually begin utilizing it. We've got staff in the system, they're using it. We want to be able to start looking at resourcing. So if we're looking at resourcing to start, we're going to begin by looking at our work planning view. So anytime you need to navigate somewhere within the system, obviously we have our main navigation bar here, and the work planning view is under tasks and work planning view. You will see that the resource link is here. Now this is an older version of the work planning view. It is still a useful tool. However, I personally would recommend using the work planning view just as we will be deprecating this eventually. So I wouldn't become accustomed to it if I were you. There's just one little bit of functionality that's still living in that right now that we haven't moved into work planning quite yet, but we will and eventually be getting rid of it. So if we come into work planning view here, now I've done an entire webinar on this topic before, so I am going to condense it quite a bit. If you guys ever want to take a look at the full webinar where we really dive into a lot of it, again, happy to share that. But as you come into your work planning view, you're gonna, obviously, I always like to point out the legend right away. So if you need an understanding of what everything sort of stands for, that is there as a quick reference for you. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna come into the visual itself. So how this is organized right off the bat is by each of the individual roles and then those individuals underneath those roles. With each individual, you're going to see their time that is put into the work calendar. So that is through the admin section where you can set up the number of hours that any of your staff is expected to work in a day. So Beth here is a great example where she is expected to work about 8 hours a day, standard office hours. And then you're going to also see the comparison of all the time that is assigned to her at this point. And this is all based off of any tasks that are currently assigned. Within here, so now we know that she has 4 hours of 8 that have been tasked out to her. You can then see each of those individual tasks. If you hover over them, it will give you just a quick little overview there of the date range in there, who it's assigned to, the estimated hours, and maybe where the actual hours are at so far, and of course the priority. Now, if you need any more information, you can click in and it will pop out a little module here for you. And this is all editable. So if you needed to adjust something, maybe we now know that this imaging and illustration task has been actually stretched out a couple more days for her. We could do that. As well as maybe even reassign it if needed. So at this point, I know I'm going to reassign it to Carmen. I'm going to save this. And you're going to see this image and illustration has now dropped down to Carmen down here instead. So you can actually do quick edits and changes directly on this view as you see that maybe time isn't allocated fairly or just needs some small adjustments. You will also see any of your overdue over in the overdue section. And something that I always like to talk about is the different colors that you're going to see on here. So anything blue is anything that is currently in a status of assigned or in progress. Some of our most commonly used statuses, and it's really where any of your end users really know what tasks are happening, because these are the ones that would be on their dashboards. They'd be tracking time to them and probably actively working on them. Where anything purple is anything that's actually still in a status of draft. So there are some really great workflows that can be done in Function Point, where if you leave all of the statuses in a all schedules in a status of draft, it will allow for you to, again, keep that schedule in a bit of a limbo or gray state, I like to say, so that your staff don't necessarily know about some upcoming work, either one, because maybe the client hasn't signed off on it yet, so you're not wanting them to get a head start on something that you're not sure if you're actually going to be able to bill for, or two, again, maybe their schedules or plates are really full right now and you're just wanting to not cause some stress until maybe something's been filtered out. So you'll definitely see as you're looking at a resource view that there will be a lot more in the blue that's current, and then as you were say to scroll through time, you'll see more that's purple as you have not assigned those out yet.
Hey, Sophie, just a quick question.
Please.
So I know that we now have the functionality to assign tasks directly from the Kanban view, which you're going to show a little bit later. But has there been any thoughts about being able to create a task directly from the work planning view?
Great question. Yes, it has been talked about. Where it is on the roadmap, though, I'm not sure. So I'm not going to give any dates and throw my dev manager under the bus here. I'm sure he'd prefer if I didn't. But it has been talked about, and it is something that we do plan on doing.
Thank you.
No problem. Any other questions, Jess, like while we're here?
No, enthusiastic comments.
Okay, great. Yeah. Awesome. Couple other things that I think are really great to point out, again, with that color coding, anything that's overdue will appear in that kind of like muted red orange color, so that it is definitely highlighted. And I'm gonna actually, in the bulk editing, show you ways of being able to maybe clear some of those out. Anyone that maybe has been in Function Point for a while but not utilized this tool before, you're probably going in right now and thinking, oh my goodness, there are so many red overdue tasks. And that's just from years ago of maybe playing around with the schedules and tasks and not following through with it. So again, bulk editing will be able to help you clear a lot of those out. But say if you only have a couple like this, you know, I'm the PM and I'm having a conversation with Jenny about why this hasn't been done. She's like, oh, it has, I just need to clear out that status. You can actually just come in here and complete it right off the bat, and it will then clear itself off of that work planning view. I don't necessarily see this page used a lot, say in status meetings, but if you ever needed to, you could pull it up so that you could have a conversation with any of your team members to discuss maybe why some things are overdue. If there were to be a page that I see maybe more commonly used would be the tasks and to-dos page, or again, the Kanban view, which we will dive into shortly for some of those status meetings. Couple other things I just want to touch on before we move on as well is, of course, any filters. If maybe you are a PM that manages a single role, you can make sure that you can filter down by that if we want to just look at the designers, so that you don't have every single staff member on your page. And then, of course, another commonly asked question is, well, what if I'm planning something 6 months out? You can stretch that start and end date. We usually keep it within a month just because the system is best optimized around that time, but you can extend up to 6 months to a year. But of course, your scrolling will just be a little bit delayed as you would expect with any kind of browser and loading that much information. So just something important to keep in mind. Okay, Jess, any other last minute questions before I move into some of those resource reports that we've recently released?
One other question, and I think this is something probably heard before, is the ability to create recurring tasks. So I know that that's not an option for right now, but that is something, Paul, who suggested that if you are familiar with the area to submit an idea within the system, I would highly recommend you do so because it is a great idea.
Yeah, recurring tasks is definitely a commonly asked one. We have actually just, and again, fun information for everyone on this call. We do have a list of sort of like quick items that we're hoping to release over the next year, and we're probably going to get started on them maybe in March or April. Recurring tasks specifically are not on there as of right now, only because of the amount of just work that we've estimated everything out, and it does take quite a bit of time to implement something like that. But there will be other cool little updates coming to some tasks. And again, reach out to your CSM or reach out to the success team, and we can talk about how best to set up maybe a workaround or an alternative to reoccurring tasks in your schedules with you. So definitely some options around that. Okay, great. So what I want to dive in next is going to be a couple of those resourcing reports. So these do live within BI. Again, anyone that has been using the system, you're going to see that there's BI reports and there's standard reports. The standard reports, again, are some of our older reporting. The most commonly used ones in there have now been rebuilt in our BI reporting. Probably in the next couple of years, we do plan again to deprecate the standard reporting section, but there are still a few reports in there that we have not been able to build in BI, which is why we have not done it yet. So we do promise that we will not get rid of this until it's in BI. But again, for anyone that is like lives and breathes within there, I would recommend start looking at the BI reporting area, because we will be removing that eventually. So I'm going to just open this in a new tab for myself so that I can kind of bounce around a little bit. Anyone that maybe wants this, I always do like a right click and open with the BI reporting, only because sometimes I still want to reference something directly in the system as well, and I find that just a little bit easier for my navigation, but everyone's a little bit different, so however you prefer to work. Now, what I want to get into here is the 3 new reports. So you're going to find under your BI reporting that you obviously have an all section. It will pull up every single report that is living back here. We've got a little bit of navigation. Again, we have done full webinars on BI reporting itself and the navigation within here. If anyone would like to take a look at that, happy to share it. So I'm going to be moving probably a little bit quicker for some people that haven't been in here before. But I just want to make sure that you know where these reports are. But what we have all, and if you wanted to, you could search for these reports by just typing in resource. And these are our new 3 ones. We've got resource forecasting and actuals by company and job. We've got staff resourcing and actual report, and we've got the staff resource allocation report. Everything is a little bit different, but the commonalities in all of these is that all the numbers are calculated just like in the work planning view. And also what you can do is you can forecast future as well as analyze history within here. Because within the work planning, it's a little bit harder to backdate a lot of that, because of the fact that when tasks are completed, they are removed from the work planning view, where this is still going to give you that analysis of, again, where how many hours were expected to work, what was forecasted based off of estimated hours on task, and then of course any of the actuals that were tracked against it. So the one that I am going to look at today is just going to be the staff resource and actual report. And we're going to pull this up again just so I can show you what each of the columns represent, but I highly recommend everyone come in here and take a look at each one. The titles are pretty self-explanatory on what each represents. But what I like to do when I come into any of these is, of course, you can filter by anything. I'm going to do the date range current for the current month. I like these shortcuts over here. It makes it a little bit easier for me to play around. We're going to continue. Anyone that's maybe following along in your system, as you go through, you may see some stars against some of these items. That's because these are premium features and do come at an add-on cost. So I'm going to keep it within the basic for today and just pull this in the table view, which is just a great and easy way of looking at this in kind of in a data sort of way. So with this report, again, what we've sort of talked about, we've got our staff, we've got the forecasted amount, which is, this is all of the estimated hours against tasks. So it's not the estimated hours living against specific jobs, it's what you've actually estimated per each individual. Then we go into the capacity itself. This is, again, the number of hours that is being expected based off of the work calendar, which is in your admin view. When you are setting up your staff members, you should be defining how many hours you expect them to work. So since we pulled it for this month, from February 1 to 17th, there is a capacity of 104 hours. Right now, Beth has 60.37 hours that have been estimated for her. But she's also already tracked 64 hours against this. So this does give you a bit of an idea on, you know, she's already tracked more hours than what was forecasted. So she's either going over her hours or potentially working on some other things that weren't tasked out to her. So it's a great way for you to be able to then sort of like trigger having a conversation with her, especially maybe someone like Carmen who has 27.75 and her actuals are already at 88. Again, really great opportunity to sort of have that conversation around, okay, why is this sort of a little bit different? And you know what, there are some very reasonable explanations. She may be working on some non-billable time that isn't anything that you end up tasking out. You know, if you track your PTO or sick days within the system, there's also an opportunity that maybe she's tracking to something like that, which hasn't been forecasted. And then, of course, we have the breakout again here as well for those variances between what the forecast and capacity was, the forecast and actuals, and then, of course, the capacity and actuals. So I know I'm running through this pretty quickly. Really, the point of showing you guys these is that they are here, they are available. Definitely recommend diving in and taking a look at some of these. Before I continue, because we do have a lot of content to get through, I do want to do a quick check-in. Jess, any questions or anything that you think we should make sure we tackle on screen?
Just, you know, a question around, like, does that factor in like PTO, vacation, things like that, or is it more being calculated on the number of hours that they're allocated to work in the week?
Yeah, great question. So if you do have something like your PTO, vacation, anything along those lines, and you have them tasked out, then yes, they would show up in that forecasted hours. Again, it really depends on how you have it set up. If you have like a task that lasts the entire year for something like that, obviously time is even spread within those different time frames. So how much would be allocated is like a really great question. So we may want to talk again about what you really want to see. However, with something like capacity, you know, you'll see Stefka here. We know she's a part-time worker, and that's why her capacity is at 72. So if you are inputting people's vacations into the work calendar, it will remove it from this capacity section for you. Looks like Paul might be almost a better example at that 96, because that'll be roughly, is that 8 hours, 12 hours off. So from what everyone else's capacity is at. So as long as you're putting those sort of things into the work calendar, then yes, they'll show up in capacity, or if you're tasking them out, they'll show up in forecasted. So I personally would probably just put them in capacity and not put them in the forecast. But again, we can definitely talk about what works best for you and your team. Jess, anything else before we continue?
Just looking at, I couldn't remember whether it was part of the advanced or the premium or not, but being able to filter employees that are no longer active in the system because it's still pulling in people there. Yes,
Definitely, great question. So again, when you log in, you'll be able to see anything will have a star against it that's part of premium. If you need to add in a new column, say for staff active, we can put in staff status. We can add this in and confirm. The add column is part of the basic, but you could pull that in, drag and drop it, and then you can filter in here as well. So that staff status, you can come in and filter. Now, the only thing just to like take note of is that if you say wanted to save this page, that is part of the premium features. So with the basic, you will be able to add it in, you will be able to filter, but saving it, you'll just have to recreate this every time if you choose not to do the upgrade. So yeah, but that is available if you need to do that. All right, great. Jess, any more?
Yeah, they're coming in fast and furious here. Talking about looking at a question around the actual plus the forecast. So is that the best calculation for the total hours that the staff will work? So, we're trying to figure out here whether if she's tracked X amount of time and then plus what was forecasted, then how does that calculate the number of assigned hours for the week? And that's
Okay.
something we can take offline as well, so we can get through the rest of the content.
Yeah.
I'm happy to
Yeah.
set up a call with you, Jennifer, to kind of review that in greater detail if you like.
Yeah, what you're talking about right now, I'm not sure that this is actually the right report for that. So Jennifer, we maybe want to like dive into that because there's a possibility with these actuals, if you were to add the forecasted, that would actually almost just double your hours and probably give you a number that makes absolutely no sense. Because the actuals is obviously the amount of time that has been tracked within the system, where the forecasted is really just what's been estimated. So I'm not sure if this would be the right report for you. So based off of I definitely have a few more questions for you. So let's make sure we connect and see what we can find for you. All right. Okay, Jess, I'm going to ask it one more time. Any more questions we want to make sure that we touch on?
No, we got to move on.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Let's do it. So I am now going to navigate back into the function point system itself again. So again, we've got our work planning view. We've already touched on that. What I now want to make sure that we go into is actually going to be our Kanban. So again, this is a really great use for end users. What we're going to do to get there is actually hover over tasks again. And this is going to go into our tasks and to-dos. So earlier when I was mentioning the different status meetings and areas that might be more useful in there. This has been used for a very long time. I'm just going to do a quick highlight here. I wanted to do Shift, not Command, and we'll select and pull up everything. So anyone that has been using this, they're probably very familiar with this page. We also have a tile version of it on your dashboard. This is editable if, say, in any of your status meetings, you're going through having discussions with your staff, and you can actually complete these as you go and submit that to remove it off of this. Now, what we've done is there's a new display available in here. So under list, it's going to go into board, and this is going to actually take you into our Kanban, which again is new. We launched it at the end of last year. We've had a lot of really great feedback on it so far. But I wanted to, again, we do have a whole nother webinar that is completely concentrated on this. So I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty. I will check in with questions, but I'm just going to do some high level overview here for you. So on this Kanban view, Kanban is a very handy way of organizing. It was actually originally created in a Japanese way of organizing your tasks, specifically more for inventory workflow. I believe it was actually a car dealership that originally created this way of working. Now, when you log in, you're probably going to see some different items because there are different ways of organizing this. First of all, I always like to point out how there is different ways of sorting by on here. So right off the bat, we've got it sorted based off of the task status. So these are your different task statuses. These do have direct functionality within the system. These are not editable. However, it comes in really handy when it comes to, say, a board like this. Now, if what you prefer to do is base this off of due date, we can easily filter by that for you so that we can see tasks that maybe don't have specified due dates, overdue, due today, due this week, due next week, or due more than 2 weeks out. This page, again, is editable. We can click in. You'll be able to see the entire task here. If you needed to edit the task, you can actually edit right here in this module for yourself as well. Come on in here, see all the different options available, but anyone that has used just a standard add task page, it is all the same information here. You can add in those attachments, comments. We have actually made the comments as well as description boxes on your task now rich text, so you can add in bullets, numbering, bold, italicize, anything along those lines. which I personally really am happy about. We are hoping to, again, push this through to more of the system eventually, but one step at a time. We've made sure that it's available in all task-related things to start. Other things that we have available when we are looking at these, you do have the capability of tracking time directly to these tasks in here. Go ahead, input any time that is needed against this. I'm gonna maybe put in 10 hours. Which will now actually put us over, which is great. We'll submit that. And what you've now seen is that this color of this task has changed now. So these colors are all based off of, again, that time and estimated hours against that task. So if you're not estimating hours against a task, one, that's not going to help you with your resourcing. So I would highly recommend it. And two, when they go over, you're going to now be able to see and be prompted that something either was estimated incorrectly, or that obviously this individual is maybe having some difficulty with this task and that you may need to jump in and help. Other items that are going to prompt you on here, we do have dependencies available within the system. Again, we talk about this a lot in the schedules and tasks webinar, but this is going to show you that there's dependencies. Also with priorities, we know that this is a priority of normal. However, if we wanted to quickly edit this, we could come in and we can make this priority high. We can save that and exit out. And you're now going to see that that little emblem has changed again to just show that this is of a higher priority. We do have other things as well, just around maybe attachments. We're giving you prompts on here. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change it back to task status so that I can show you how we can also move things around. So, you know, we've got our webinar for February 17th here that's currently assigned, and I know that has now been completed, and I'm going to just move it there. What this does, it will automatically update that task status for you as you move it around. So this is, again, editable, movable. We can work within here a little bit on the fly. Anyone that I'm sort of working with right now, a lot of their designers, web developers, they are actually logging in and using this as sort of their go-to page at the moment. So it has been quite useful. We do obviously have some other options too here if you needed to filter by specific things. Right now, what I have on is I've filtered by just all of the designers in the system so that I can take a look at them and just where all of their work is really sitting at the moment. If maybe there were specific people you wanted to look at, we could also filter by those. And even job statuses or jobs. So there's lots of editable capabilities in here. And if you wanted to maybe have specific saved filters, you can also have those in here. So if I wanted to save this, because again, we've got it filtered by designers right now, design tasks. You can choose it to be a saved filter that would be viewable on everyone's, or if you just want to keep it for yourself, you can go ahead and save that. And now in here, you're going to see all of the different saved filters that you currently have. So I did one earlier for job 30317 because this is something that I'm keeping an eye on. And you can, again, navigate between all of those different options as you are on this board. So pretty useful. All right. Those were all the high level things. Again, I wanted to make sure I touched on. Jess, any questions to throw at me maybe in the next 3 minutes before we do just a quick show of the last couple of things?
Nope, we're good.
Okay, great, awesome. Again, everyone, we do have more in-depth webinars on all of these. Happy to share them if anyone needs access. So again, these couple of items that I want to make sure that we touch on is bulk editing and pin tasks. So I'm going to jump into bulk editing to get started. This was actually a great feature that was added, must be just about a year ago now, maybe just under a year. And you know, just a huge pain point has always been that there are a lot of tasks living in the system and maybe needing to change them quickly to different individuals. You know, if say you were in a case where you had to let someone go and you needed all the tasks to be transferred to somebody else, or maybe like bulk editing dates. To be able to do this function, it's through the task find. So you would come in and find all the tasks. Now, a workflow that I actually want to walk you guys through today, which has been something that I've just found has come up in conversation a lot recently with a few agencies I'm working with, is around, again, PMs or managers actually wanting to just double check the work of some of their staff before like actually confirming or say approving that they have completed their tasks. So in a case like that, this can actually be very helpful. We do have some task statuses. I'm going to just pull this up right here so you can see them of the different statuses. And it's these two right here, which are complete and confirmed, which are great for this workflow. So when your staff are done tracking time against a task or done tracking time and have decided that they have completed the task, they can put that task into a status of completed, which will remove it from their dashboard and other views that they're utilizing. Now, you as a manager, this is when you're going to want to utilize that confirmed status. So at any point, you could actually come in, take a look at all of the tasks that your staff have completed, and you can confirm them. And this is where this bulk editing is going to come in really handy. So what I want to do is I'm actually going to filter by all statuses that are completed that say were in, I'm going to do a due date of maybe January. So all tasks that were due in January, we're going to tab that out. Also, for anyone that wants to do a date range on these finds, it's just by putting 3 little dots between the 2 dates for you there. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to find tasks. And this will now, oh, excuse me. This will now pull up a list of all your tasks that are currently in a completed status that had a due date within January. So you as a PM can now go through, you can actually review all of the different tasks, again, based off of those filters for yourself. If there's any more information that maybe you would like on this page, you can definitely come up here through manage columns and add that in. But what we really want to talk about today is that bulk changing. So on this page, say I've reviewed all these tasks, I feel good about it. I know that my staff have completed everything correctly. What I want to do is I want to highlight all of these tasks myself as of right now. Now, of course, if there were a couple that you weren't comfortable with, you could always unhighlight them and they will be removed from the process that we're about to take at the moment. So we know that there are 32 tasks in total. I have unchecked 2 of those, so that should make it 30. And what you're going to see is this bulk editing option up here. So when we go ahead and click up this is where you're going to find anything that can be changed. So for our options today, I know it's the status that I wanted to change. I want to change everything to a status of confirmed. It will confirm for you that these changes will affect 30 of 32 tasks based off of what we had highlighted on that previous page. Again, other options, if you say needed to switch everything to a specific individual, or if you needed to change due dates, anything like that, milestones, those are available on here as well. Just the specific use case today, what I'm talking about is just statuses. You can come in and you can apply those changes to the checked fields. Again, it will confirm that it is 30 out of the 32 tasks that are being edited. These changes cannot be undone. Something I just always like to emphasize, people, if you're going to come in and play around with this, make sure you click cancel if it's not actually what you want to do. We cannot undo it. So I'm going to click confirm. And this is now, you see how this list has actually cleared out, because it has cleared out those 30 tasks because they no longer are relevant to this filter that we have on, except for those 2 that are the couple of that we cleared out. So you can now go back and actually have those conversations with your staff being like, you know what, you didn't quite hit my expectation. Let's retry it. And how can I help you to achieve those goals? Okay, again, I feel like I'm starting to talk fast because I'm really wanting to get through all the content, but Jess, I want to make sure questions, comments, anything on this specific item before we moved on to the new pin tasks.
Yeah, so like a couple questions around bulk editing from timesheets, that we don't have a feature yet to change time that was allocated to one individual over to another from a bulk format.
Not in timesheets, no, it's just currently in tasks. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? All right. Great. Okay, so then last but not least is the pin tasks. These are new within the system, but I'm going to take you through just a basic version of just like an add task in here. Again, through that main navigation bar, you will have that add task. This is your basic add task page. Again, all those different other views that we were looking at all have the same data on them, but I wanted to show you obviously on our wider screen with everything laid out on how we can go ahead and add tasks. Again, this functionality is very similar to notes. So anyone that has used that add notes function, it's pretty much the same. So what we can do is we can go ahead and create a title. Anyone that hasn't maybe used this, anything with a highlighted blue is a mandatory field. Anything that's not is not. So I'm just going to fill out any mandatory items. Webinar February 15th. Whoop. Example. And we're going to fill that in. I'm going to give it a due date for the end of next week. I'm going to assign it to Jess, actually. It is currently an assigned status. And then if you need to upload any files or anything as well, we could add. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. We've now created this task. Jess knows that she needs to work on it, but also at this point, I just need to make sure that a couple people are aware. So we do have this pinning option up here in the top right, which we can highlight, and it will automatically choose me because I am the creator of this, but I also want to make sure Deepika is aware, Ryan, Ian, Jess will actually see it in her tasks and to-dos tile, but I can also pin it to her as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and click submit. So it will notify you that that task pin status has updated successfully. Now, this is always a little fun little big brother kind of item I always like to point out with the pin nodes. So I'm going to point it out with the pin task as well, is this sent and read options here. So as we get down to say myself, I can see that it's been sent, but it has been unread so far. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to navigate back to our dashboard. So on your dashboard, again, you can create unique tiles for yourself from a single tile. Again, one of these items would be called a tile here. We've got our pin task tile right here. So I can see all the tasks that have been pinned to me, but aren't assigned to me. If they were assigned to me, they would be appearing in this tile down at the bottom. So I can actually come in, I can see, oh, okay, someone's pinned a task to me. I can go ahead and take a look. This was the one that we just created here, so that I could do a bit of a reference. Maybe if there's something that I need to help Jess with, it'll be again here for me. And now this is where this big brother action comes in. We can come in and we can see that for myself, it's been sent yes. And because I clicked into it, it has now been read as well. So you can actually kind of monitor a little bit on what your staff are doing and if they are actually looking at some of these pinned items, which is really useful. Now, of course, as we are looking at this tile, it was bolded previously when it hadn't been read yet. And of course, if you need to unpin anything, you can come in as just come on in and unpin it and it will remove itself from your dashboard too. So again, this functionality is available on any add task option. You can add tasks from multiple places, even from quick tasks here, on schedules, through the add task in the main navigation, from the Kanban board, and it will come to the work planning view eventually. So there's lots of ways of being able to create and pin tasks as needed. But yeah, this was something, again, released just a couple of weeks ago, and so far we've been getting good feedback. I would love to hear any other feedback from anybody else if you are currently using it. If you wanted to put it into that questions channel now, would love to hear. Otherwise, please reach out at any point to our success team to also provide it then as well. Okay, great. So again, we got through a lot of content. I'm proud of us. We're sitting at just 10 minutes before the top of the hour. Jess, any kind of questions that we want to make sure that we touch on before we wrap up today?
I think people are just like kind of getting into some subscription related questions. So like, some people are saying, will a pin note, well, one of them appear in the Kanban? So The notes will be associated if they're pinned to that task, but they would have to physically go into that task to see the notes. And then also people want to just clarify that they don't have to see the pinned tasks kind of tile within your dashboard to see what's been pinned to them. There will also be an accompanying alert to go with that.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess first part of that around the dashboard, no, you don't have to have this tile on it. If you plan on using the function, you may want to consider it for some of your end users and requesting that they put it on. However, your dashboards, you can have multiple dashboards here. You can customize dashboards. And yes, there are alerts associated with these being prompted to you as well. I think we actually ran into a bug on that this week, but that should be fixed and not a problem in the future. Okay. Now, Jess, I just want to circle back to the first comment that you made there around the tasks and notes on them. Do we mean actually the comments on the task itself? So if we were to click in and if we wanted to see all the comments that were maybe associated to it, correct?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, because notes and tasks and comments on tasks are different than notes. So I just wanted to clarify that terminology for anyone that was asking that question.
And also for those of you that are, have kind of reached out saying that you're not getting certain alerts, then I would recommend having your administrator go in and just make sure that your alerts are set up correctly. And obviously, if you're not sure or you think you've set them correctly and it's not working, you can just email us at success@functionpoint.com and we're happy to give you a hand.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, great. Well, if that is the wrap up of questions, Jess and I will stay on for another 5 minutes or so. Again, anyone that had really great ideas or any questions today, we do have our help center up here through the question mark. The help center itself, we do record all of our webinars and we do post them here. Anyone that attended today will receive a recording of the webinar. If you want to share it with anyone, if you need to contact our support team, you can do so here, as well as submit an idea to our product team. They do review it, they do score it, and we do vote on what should be added into our roadmap. So please go ahead and in there. Also, something I just like to point out with the new contact support, we just released actually being able to capture a video or draw on screen. So if you do it directly in here rather than just shooting them an email, it will actually allow you to be able to record it a little bit differently. And so that will actually help them in solving your questions faster. So definitely recommend taking a look at that. It is a very new and handy trick. But yeah, if you ever get stuck and say it's late at night and we're not available to be able to help you, there's lots of resources in our help center to be able to as well. Perfect. Okay, well, great. Thank you everyone for joining us today. It's always a pleasure having these webinars and getting thrown lots of great questions at me. I will release you all probably to another very busy Wednesday. And again, if there's any questions, comments, concerns, feedback, please feel free to email success@functionpoint.com. We want to hear from you. But yeah, Jess and I will stay on the line for another couple minutes in case there's any more questions trickling through. But thank you everyone, and we'll talk to you all in another couple of weeks at our next webinar on, I believe we're going to be talking about rates and some service structures and stuff. So it's going to be another fun one. Okay, thanks everybody. Thanks Jess for joining me as well. It's always a pleasure.
Thanks, Soph.